Hi, and welcome to Hooks and Ladders. My name is Allister Bradley,
And I'm Blair Packham.
and we are here today with a special guest. We have Stephen Stanley with us. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good.
Thanks for having me on.
We wanted to pick your brain about topics of songwriting, and today the topic that's on front of mind is fact versus fiction. Sometimes we're writing and we're staying within the lines of fact, and other times we're creating completely from nothing. What, in your experience, has been, the difference between writing from what you know and writing from what you want to imagine?
I think I really approach it from a factually based point of view. And the funny thing is, I've written a lot of songs recently, and recently meaning the last 2 or 3 years, that are looking back at, parts of childhood, parts of and some things that a couple songs, one song that's called Hornets that'll be in the next record that I was really proud of. I was really proud of the lyrics and the story mostly. And the story is of me and a friend who was a friend for only a couple of years, long before email and any sort of connection. And he and his family moved away. And after that, we just completely lost touch and have never regained that touch. But it was a specific story about something that had happened between the two of us. And I started playing it live, and then one time my brother came and saw me play it and then called me the next morning and said, I don't know why you left me out of that story, but I was completely there with you, and so was this other guy that we knew. And in my mind's eye, I was completely sure it was just the two of us. And to this day, I only remember the two of us. My brother says I'm an idiot because I've left out. Now, you need to, I mean, there's times when you need to edit just to make the song concise, but I think factually, yes, but factually from a mind's eye point of view, and which is often sort of a whimsical, reinterpretation of the events that as they happen. But it's important to me, and this next album has a lot more. The next album I'm working on right now has a lot more stuff on it that maybe isn't as personal, and I do try to be factual in how I build the stories, and I don't really work with a lot of completely fictional situations. But the beauty about songwriting is once you get into it, there's nobody saying to you, "Hey, that's not correct." You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, no
That's
voice
true.
on your shoulder that says, "But really, it was a Tuesday, Stephen. It,
Yeah,
it,
that's
it
right.
wasn't a
But
Friday."
but here's the funny thing that a lot of songwriters beat themselves up to include the facts and make sure the whole story is illustrated for the listener in a
Yeah,
way that might take away from the experience.
yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't really matter that it was 1962 rather than 1965 necessarily. So if something rhymes with 65 better than 62, maybe it's more important to play a little looser.
I I think I came to songwriting from the point of view of being able to build my own sort of, interpretation or fantasy world from the songs that I loved when I was a kid. And I've always been very mindful to try to allow enough latitude that you're not being so specific that like you're indoctrinating people saying this is not about you, this is about me. You
Right.
have to know that right now. That's it's more important to me to have like to allow sort of a universal theme to build into that story, and I'll often do that just by telling a story, but then maybe a verse of that song isn't related to the story at all. Like it's thematically related only, and you take it off in a different direction that to me, in my mind anyways, is supporting what the theme of the song is. Because I think I work more in thematics than I do in here. I'm going to tell you a story that goes from A to B. And I also, live, I do a lot of talking between songs. So you can add a lot of context that I think audiences enjoy that. They enjoy hearing the context from your point of view. But if you're hearing on a record, I would hope that you're coming up with your own interpretation of it.
Yeah, yeah. Your last album, Jimmy and the Moon, fantastic record,
Oh, thanks.
and the title song,
Yes.
fantastic song. But it's based, at least initially anyway, on real events or a real conversation you had.
Yes. And so there you go. I've just, I'm going to have to refute what I said a few seconds ago, because in that case, it was based completely on a real conversation. A guy just walked up to me not far from my house. I was waiting for the streetcar and launched into this whole diatribe about how when the condo at the corner of Woodbine and Gerard was finished being built, he would no longer be able to see the moon. And he was a barfly at Jimmy's at the corner of Woodbine and Gerard, which is no longer there, which is quite sad. But I did build an entirely fictional existence into that song about him, and just, about a guy who had lived in the neighborhood for more years than you can count, and all of a sudden everything's changing and he's furious about it. And it was at the time when I wrote that song, at the time when the Ford brothers, all they were yelling every day was cranes in the air, cranes in the air. And I was like, this cannot be the sole reason for our city's existence, that we're building, we're breaking things down and we're building new things. That's not, to me, what the soul of a city is. The soul of a city is guys like this who have, deeply rooted lives in neighborhoods, and that means something to him. And and it was touching, because he actually broke into tears while we were talking. Now, and that may have been because he'd had a couple drinks too, but it launched a song that I'm really happy with, that had a narrative that was partially filled in by just trying to guess what this guy was doing in the city.
Yeah, 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 yes. Well, I think you touch on a subject that resonates with a lot of people who live in a lot of cities, where development is king, and so and people also, it also touches on the topic of change and the inevitability to a point, but also why are these things changing? Because there are some things, that many things that change are inevitable, but there are some things that you have to think, but why do we have to change this? and I think that song resonates with a lot of people because of that.
Yeah, and I mean, and maybe we'll all agree on this, maybe we won't, but it always seems to me that there's parts of any city where you expect that change to be rapid and happen all the time. Then you move to a neighborhood like mine, which seemingly, I just actually found a photo, saw it online, from like 1950 something, of the corner of Woodbine and Gerard, and like the storefronts are all the same. Like, it hasn't changed at all. So there are places where you go where you figure change is not going to happen. So I get somebody, when they're throwing up a condo that ended up being kind of an eyesore. But the funny thing is, like, him saying that I'll never see the moon again. It's like, well, he's pretty tied to that bar stool, because you could probably just walk a couple blocks away.
Or even a half a block. Yeah, that's true. But it's a beautiful, I think, I've always thought that song, it's a beautiful, taking of this moment and making it into something much bigger, which I think is at the heart of a lot of songwriting. You're taking a small thing. I think sometimes songwriters take a big thing, like, we must have world peace. Well, where do you even start with that?
Sure, yeah.
But if you illustrate some little thing that goes to that point, it's the finding of the little thing, I think. And you seem to find it a lot in facts, in actual things that happen, that inspire you.
Yeah, I think the way you just put that is exactly the way I like to approach it. And I think there's a lot more, just based on where we are in life right now, there's a lot more sort of politically tinged stuff that's going to be on the next record. One of the ones I'm really proud of is a song called Chase That Devil. And it came from, I think it was CNN. I was watching one night, and they were interviewing a right-wing politician, and he was asked a very simple question: if you're elected, what are you going to do? And he said, I'm going to chase that devil right out of town. And I was like, wow, that's awesome, because basically, when the camera's rolling, you're that guy. You're going to say exactly what needs to be said to attract the people you're trying to attract to cast a vote for you. And chances are, when the camera shuts off, you're not that guy at all. So I loved that, and turned that into a whole narrative about politics. But it started from a very factual place, and one of those ones of it where I've lost the source. Like, I've never been able to find that interview again. It actually, as I say it, I think it might have been a Canadian politician, and maybe it wasn't CNN. But anyways, I just loved it, because it's like, come on, you're gonna chase that devil right out of town.
Right.
Where are we, in like the 60s in the South? Like, it's like, this is not.
But again, you take that moment, that factual moment, but the detail of who it was who said it, and what network they were on, and the larger context. You make the context. You take it. You're inspired by it, and then you make the context. And I just think that's an important thing for songwriters like us to remember, is that it doesn't have to be. You don't have to say, late last night on CBC I saw a politician.
But that's good. Can I write that down?
Yeah, you definitely use that collaboration.
Yeah,
but you know what I mean. It doesn't have to follow the fact. Like, I believe that it's been said many times, don't ever let the facts get in the way of a good story. I tend to think that's more true with songs than anything else.
Yeah, of course. I think in that may be the case that we're talking about here. Is like, it's like the facts in this particular instance are maybe only important to me, so I can prove to myself that I didn't just fabricate some ridiculous scenario where somebody is so cliche, saying something so cliched. So I think the facts maybe are only important to me, and I do like to have that as a reference to be able to say, oh no, this is where I heard that, but this one's lost. I haven't been able to find it again.
Right, amazing. Well, thank you again for joining us. It's really great to talk about this stuff, and I, for one, would talk about this stuff whether we were on Zoom or not. So I'm really glad to talk with you about it.
Yeah, I love these conversations, and I find them, not only is it exciting to have this talk about these topics, but it's also very inspirational. It makes you want to, go back and do it all over again, because you are focusing on the things that you love about songwriting, and that's, I think it's just important to stay in tune with that and be reminded of that when the chance presents itself. So,
agreed.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Blair.
Thank you, Allister.
We'll see you guys next time
Allister.
on Hooks and Ladders.